As an herbalist, sometimes we're utilizing tree roots for medicine. In natural building and or survival building, tree roots are very much, can be utilized as cordage. And if you look at a lot of the old basketry, especially of the West Coast peoples and northern, northern woodland regions, they're making baskets that are watertight, historically. Historically, they would be, a woman's job to do that. They would impart their family insignia in there and stories of their family lineage in the baskets and hats. Different materials from different trees will obviously have different properties. So if we're looking for medicinals, tree roots, number one, to dig tree roots that are long to work with and the right diameter is really difficult, right? Yeah. A lot of times you're looking for a washed out area, like in a bank of something.
Almost like this area that we have here.
Kind of like that, yeah. And where you can actually get into the side of it and dig it out. One of the things I wanted to share with people, especially as we are looking for long, straight roots, one of the best ways I've found to harvest roots is to actually look for down trees. Okay? So the down trees this tree's probably been down for 50, 60 years and it's still holding up. Okay? So as we're doing that, maybe we'll walk up here because I like this tree. I don't want to rip it up too much. And just the other night we had a bear out here that was digging his winter food source.
How do you know that you had a bear out here?
We'll come check it out. This is one of the beautiful things about living on a piece of land that you're actively involved with. So I'm tracking every day.
And this is dog.
This is probably my dog.
Yeah.
Okay? Probably marking because the bear was here. Yeah. All right, you can see front legs, back legs,
yep.
The push of the duff backwards.
Yep.
This got kicked out from here because you can actually see the moss here.
Yep.
You see almost a V-like pattern here.
Yep.
So that's two front legs that are kind of towards each other, pulling back like this, okay? So I always say if you have a dog or a cat, learn to track from them. It'll teach you a lot. But the reason I say this bear was here is because I know this land, number one, I'm paying attention to it. Something like this is what showed me first. So you can see this log has not been out and weathered on this side here, right? You can see how moist it is. It was sitting somewhere, right? And it wasn't here because there's no depression. There's nothing that was grown into it. So this is what threw me, or not threw me, but showed me first, okay? So then I start looking around. And then I notice, oh, look at this dig. Okay, so it's in the decaying wood looking for grubs, ants, whatever it is that might be in there. So as I start... Well, black bears are omnivores. Right at this point, they're looking, they'll hunt squirrels. They're looking for, they're opportunists. Come springtime when the fresh green grass is, they're eating mostly green grass, right? They don't necessarily hibernate here, so they're really moving all winter long. They don't hibernate here. It's not cold enough here for them to have to go. They might have periods of rest where they stay pretty sedentary and depressed, but they never drop into a true hibernation.
Like if it snows hard for a week?
It doesn't really even matter that they might post up and just kind of drop. But it doesn't have sustained cold. They're usually moving around a lot more. Obviously, they're a little bit more chill at this time of year. Come springtime, they're gonna start pumping. But so knowing this, you can see how, by knowing it, meaning I'm walking here every day, and I know what this log looked like. That log that we just saw was my first key. And then I look up here and I see that depression.
Yeah.
Okay. So that depression is where that log was.
And you see another one right there.
Yeah, that's probably part of the same cut that I did years ago. But all of a sudden that log ends up 30 feet away And okay, I'm tracking it back up here. Now I'm noticing this. Okay, this is all fresh pull, right? This hasn't been rained on out here.
Yep.
Okay, you can see what's been rained on. Okay, this has been dried out and pulled out of here. So this bear was in here. So, you know, I'm coming in here, I'm like, oh, where did that bear stand? Where did that bear stand for that? Oh, I see a potential back foot in here.
Yep.
Okay, potentially another back foot down in here, right? As it's nosing around, digging around in here. So I haven't really looked at this. I was saving that for today to see if I see any hair, right? So this is one of my favorite ways to find aerial hair sign on overhanging branches or something. I'll put my hand underneath it and see if I can catch a contrast.
And I've seen you do this lots looking in buck dens.
Yeah, get the contrast, right? So again, not seeing anything there.
Yep.
I mean, I could get really nosy, and this is what I encourage people to do, is get nosy in here and see, what are we seeing? Oh, claw mark here, pulling down, right? Another one from right here. You can see that pull right down. So these are probably wormholes, bug holes. Maybe it didn't find much in here. It's not really ripped up. If it had found a whole lot here, it would have torn this whole thing off.
Like this is only a couple swipes.
This is like, oh, let's check it out, right? Oh, nothing. Okay, move on. Let me turn this log over. Let's move up the landscape, right? So these are amazing opportunities for me and others to see really blatant sign, and then we start trying to look for different layers of sign. Okay, again, this isn't what I was trying to really showcase today, but it's a great example of working into this. Now, of course, this is what we're utilizing, this punk wood, to smoke hides.
Yep.
Okay, so I've learned the hard way that wet punk wood really darkens it. Well, it darkens the hides a lot. The moisture content from it really darkened my hides. So if you're looking for like a really chocolatey color, I have found some good success with wetter punk wood. What I did last fall before it started raining, because I have had experiences with wet punk wood, and I actually talked to a really great tanner and said, hey, how do you find wet punk wood in the winter? He goes, you collect it in the fall. And so I did that, you know, and that's me availing myself of an elder who has a lot more experience than I. He was saying, yeah, I collected. So I collected a bunch of totes of dry punk wood beforehand, right? But this concept of collecting this, the bear is going to open it up for me, right? And so now all of a sudden I'm working in concert with it. I'll also take this, and you can see the mycelium growths that happen in these. I'll start moving these from different parts of the property into my compost piles.
Yep.
Or taking it in my garden and breaking it up and spreading it around,
Yep.
right? And just inoculating my gardens with wild, you know, mycelium strands from here. So one of the things, there's a good stout madrone branch. So again, as we're moving through here, you can see an old log. And this is the beauty of life right here. This is an example to me of our ability to give back to the earth of this fleshly, earthy form. And the instructions are kind of laid out before us, if I have eyes to see. Not only is this nutrifying the soil with its body that, you know, I don't know how long this tree fell, but it's providing habitat for bugs to live in, for bears to come and eat, perches for squirrels to sit on. It also gives us an opportunity to harvest roots. So when we start talking about long, thin roots, we can look to trees that are down, and you see this? This is a tree root. We got a bunch of Doug firs around here.
Because this is the path of least resistance.
You got it. It's not only the path of least resistance, it's full of nutrients. It's nutrient dense as it breaks down, okay? The cool thing is, instead of me scrabbling through rocky terrain along a riverbank. Now, certain like spruce roots are historically known for waterproofing qualities, okay? Meaning you can make a tight enough weave to actually hold water in a basket. What I'm looking for is roots to be lashing material, okay? I want to build a couple structures, simple earth, log structures that I want to lash with the roots.
You're trying to find paracord.
Pretty much, yeah, natural paracord, exactly. So, I found an old madrone stick here with a little bit more of a hardwood. I'm gonna just kind of get like the bear. I'm gonna start digging in and see when I start hitting a root. If I start hitting a root. Oh, there. Okay, look. Oh yeah, check that out. So, now of course, I'm not gonna start ripping up a bunch of roots right now because I'm not really ready to collect it. And I know that it's going to have an impact on the trees around it, So this is obviously a food source. You can see the thickness of this root. But what I want to really get across to people is if I start pulling, well, I guess I am harvesting some. How easy it is to all of a sudden get 6 feet of root.
No metal, no tools, no sweat.
And since I already busted it, I'm going to continue on, give it a little bit of pressure. And now if I pull it too hard there, it's going to snap. So I'll walk down a little bit. And look, it's breaking off. So I know from that point that I took it from a place that's closer, because it's thicker, a place that's closer to the tree. So it probably came from one of these trees. As it starts branching off, right, we're all of a sudden getting, and look at all this mycelium. So not only can I harvest the roots, but now I can start moving this inoculated compost to other parts of the land and really start mixing the natural beneficials from here and really start developing an environment in my gardens that replicates out here and will actually make the plants in the garden, in the loam in the garden, more naturalized to my land, but it also will create my biome, in my internal microbiome, to be more resonant with the property here. And so this is a way for us to grow food in this stuff that's all of a sudden making it easier for us to assimilate because we have the natural biome is matched to the wild stuff. So as we're harvesting, I'm going to continue on. Again, no metal tools. Oh, and that's it. It'll hit here, and then it might cut back.
Yeah.
Okay? And just like that, within 2 minutes, I've just collected 10 to 12 feet of material. Now,
Got another one right there.
this thing's probably full of it, okay? The cool thing about this is it will run the length of the tree and cut back. So one of the plants that I've utilized a lot of is California bayberry, okay? Latin name is Myrica californica. And it's got great properties to dry up and constrict mucosal membranes. So with the flus that have been going around recently, it's one of the things that I put in the tincture that I'm carrying all the time. I make my own medicines, I recycle bottles.
Yep.
But in the formula that I'm carrying now, because our family just had some pretty big sicknesses, that California bayberry is one to start drying up the mucosal membranes in our nose, our throat, and our lungs, so that it kind of pushes the need to cough or to expectorate, or it's not an expectorant, it dries it up. And so this is not bayberry, but this is a technique that I've learned from harvesting bayberry down the coast, because it's a coastal plant.
Bayberry doesn't grow here.
No, it doesn't grow here. It's usually within like 2 miles of the coast, okay? It's really the thing. And oftentimes, even in the sand, it's often not as easy to harvest because it's intertwined with a lot of other roots, right? Now finding a tree, this is where I first learned this concept, is finding a tree there. I noticed roots and I started following it and I tracked it back to the bayberry tree. But this concept of like, wow, not only can I now utilize this in my garden, but I could take this stuff here and dry it out and use it for next year's high tanning. I can spread it around. It's a good material to start moving around the forest, spreading these mycelium complexes around the forest. I can also utilize it to smooth out areas for camping. It's not a bad insulatory compound for a debris hut or something like that. So this is something really crucial for herbalists and survivalists to know, is how to harvest quickly. I didn't hurt my hands. I'm not digging through rocks, and I could
barely used any calories.
Very little. Yeah. And now, again, I'm probably not going to get into it in this video here, but now we could start splitting this. You know, a lot of times I'll
As far as the use case for this, James?
Yes.
How long is this workable?
In this concept, in like right now?
Yep. Because I would imagine this root will dry out.
It will dry out, but you can rehydrate it.
Got it.
Okay, so again, I start splitting it. You can see it's shooting off to the side. So I'm going to try to realign my cut, okay, and get it more in the middle. And I'll lay my knife into it and get that moving a little bit. Tilt my light up, so I broke it. So, you know, again, we start moving this. We start trying to open it up. Okay, you're going to follow it as long as possible. We're cutting off a bit. I actually would love to utilize this whole thing. I just wanted to demonstrate a little bit of splitting.
Yep.
But realistically, until I compromised it, it's, you know, the compromised spots. But within it, the thinner parts, you're really able to lash stuff with it. Yep. And that's really what I'm looking for, is this size and smaller would be ideal. So that's one of the reasons I didn't start ripping up that big one, right? Because I'm really looking for thinner ones.
But that big one could almost be quartered.
If you do it well, yes. Now, Doug fir will break more than maybe the spruce will. We just don't have spruce in our forest here.
Is Doug fir the best?
No.
Well,
no. Here, Doug fir, cedar I like the incense cedar roots. You know, but for that, you know, we have some incense cedar up higher.
Doug firs are up here.
Doug firs are up here, right? If this was medicine cultivation, I would be now, a lot of the times when you're harvesting medicine, and we could show you in an Oregon grape plant, we'll have to just move down the system a little bit. But you see how we start taking this off? For medicine, usually it's the inner bark of stuff you're using. Let's go get an Oregon grape and I'll show you, because we should find one right here. Now this is something also to know about. Like, we have all this scrub oak in here. It looks very similar to Oregon grape, right? So here's Oregon grape. Again, we just got off the hillside, down into a little bit more of a flat, and now we have the Oregon grape, which is Latin terms of Berberis nervosa. It used to be called Mahonia, but somehow or another got switched to Berberis, which is, berberine is the active constituent in the Oregon grape. So Oregon grape will grow in colonies. You can see a bunch of different plants around here. I have an abundance of Oregon grape around here, so I'm going to be a little bit less meticulous in this harvest just to show this video. But we're going to get low, and we're going to follow the root growth. So I'm going to see which direction it's going. Now, this is a pretty fat root, so that's showing me that that's more of the primary plant in this colony. So the fatness of that root, you can see that how fat that is.
Yep.
which is pretty cool for harvest. But as far as, conscious harvesting, I'm going to move a little bit more to the periphery.
You might want to go to the edge.
Yeah, go to the edge, go to the periphery of the colony. And now I can look at the diameters of this root. And it's holding on pretty well. Okay, so Berberis nervosa. Okay, so what I was trying to demonstrate up there with that Doug fir root is when we're harvesting medicines, it's oftentimes the inner bark of the plant. So if you could see this, you could see the yellow quality or the orange yellow quality of the root inner bark.
Yep.
That's the berberine. That's the quality that has great liver support. It's a bitter. It's got great antimicrobial and antiviral qualities to it. So what we'll do to harvest this is we'll scrape that dirt. Now I could wash this root. We'll scrape that off, okay? And you can see how much of that medicine is there.
Yep.
But the thing that I was trying to demonstrate with that Doug fir, and now we got down here, is I'm going to go a little deeper. And you can see it's lightening up a lot, right? Then we're going to go a little deeper and lightening up a little bit more. So the real medicine, with these little roots, you can pretty much just chop these little roots up, make a tea or a tincture out of it. You can actually dry and powder these leaves as well and put them as an antiseptic on cuts and abrasions. The bigger roots, like that one that we almost dug there, this would be white inside. So that's the woody part of it. As long as it's got color to it, we'll utilize it. But when it's got white in the center of it, that's cellulose. That's not necessarily, there's no medicinal qualities to it.
Is there negative qualities to it?
No, not necessarily. It's just about utilization. And if we're really making medicine, we want to utilize what's here. Yeah. So as an ecological harvester, what I'm going to do is you can see these rootlets growing off of here. I'll put it back in the sun. See the rootlets growing off of here?
Yep.
So I'll look as far up there, and because I have clippers on me today. Now, a lot of times I just don't go out without my clippers on, especially at this time of year when I'm pruning fruit trees and such. But I'll clip that off, give little roots, and I'll just stick it right back in the hole. Okay, just stick it right back in, compress it down, because I'm not needing the leaves of this, and I'll replant that. And I'll do the same thing to this piece here.
And what you're demonstrating is you're able to do this because of the rootlets.
Correct. And so these rootlets will continue to feed and we'll start sending more off. And actually, if I move it off to the side, I'm actually perpetuating the growth of this colony. Just get it, a little bit underneath, get it in contact with soil, push it in, and pat it down.
Could you also, looking back at that root on that log, could you also dig up a small Doug fir and plant it along a root to facilitate that growth?
I have never thought that, but yeah, you probably could.
I guess you don't need to.
You probably could.
Things that nature does it already.
It really does it already. But again, as far as, being an intentional movement, intentional steward of the land, it's a great idea. Why not? Why not? Why not just stick one? I mean, you'll find it often because they call them nurse logs, right? When little ones fall on decomposing old ones. And that's really a beautiful metaphor for life, where we're really just living off the efforts of ones that came before us on so many different layers. So a couple other thoughts I'm having when we're talking about cordage and natural cordage. Now, I'm going to be totally lame in this one here, but this plant I've heard called yerba buena, which I don't think it's the same yerba buena that comes in a medicinal quality from down south. But I have never keyed this out. I'm not really sure what it is. And now that I'm talking to you about it on a video, I'm going to have to go figure that out. But again, this will grow in really long vines of it. It actually is a fairly good cordage as well. Now I just pulled roots out to show you. I'll put that back in. But you'll find long stands of that, or strands, I should say. And then another one is the wild honeysuckle,
Yeah.
right? And we have a lot of that in this forest line here. So thinking about a survival situation, and the best thing to do with survival situations is to practice them before you get into them. So learn the plants that are close in proximity to your life or in the area that you're going to be traversing. Figure out what is applications for those plants. Okay, with this we just found cordage, we just found medicine. We're talking about cedars. Well, I said, okay, I love cedar roots, so maybe this would be something that I would do, right? Where I know I have some down logs that are decaying. Instead of the dug firs, maybe I would do a cedar, or I would actually take something that I really wanted to perpetuate and move them to the nurse logs.
Maybe even try a spruce.
Maybe even try spruce here.
Yeah.
It's not really the right climate for them, but it could work pretty well. So, this concept of harvesting doesn't have to be hard. It really just has to take a little effort to find out where these things grow more easily, where we can harvest them. And it's a concept that we can apply in any different environment. And that's the cool thing, is like I could do it on the coast is where I learned it, but then all of a sudden I bring it to the forest here and it shows me, oh, it's the same concept here. And as we start really developing a relationship with it, now all of a sudden I'm using the mycelium, I'm using the decomposed wood product for tanning. I'm making bedding from it. I mean, the applications are really far-reaching. So pretty cool to see. I'm going to keep this. So this is one of the things I'll keep in my pocket, especially during cold season. And I'll just chew and suck on this all day long. Oftentimes I'll just keep this in my pocket. I'll probably break it up and I already have made a bunch of this in the fall, tincture of it, so I don't necessarily need it for tincture, but I'll keep it here and be able to have little sections that I can keep in my pocket and just chew and suck on throughout the day. Now it's bitter to understand the principles of herbalism. The bitter often goes for liver support, right? And like anything, this way of life is not sweet in the sense of it's not sugary. Mm-hmm. It's hard, right? I mean, like, it's hard. So this isn't tasty as far as like a licorice stick or anything like that.
But it's good.
But it's good, and it makes me have a connection here. And you notice I didn't like take it and wash it off. Even taking a little bit of the dirt into me is fine. Like it's customizing my body to actively get some of the nutrients from this land here, making me more of a part of it. Yeah, so that was one of the biggest things I wanted to kind of show today, was just that idea of how easy it is to really harvest roots, how we don't have to dig up areas. And also, if you're harvesting roots along a creek and you're ripping apart the bank, which is historically, or where maybe a logging road has gone through the forest and you're actually in the bank of it, you're actually facilitating more erosion when one does that. Or in a situation like this, you're actually spreading a substrate that will actually hold and retain moisture around the forest rather than causing more erosion. So these concepts of how we're really affecting the environment around us really has far-reaching consequences. So I don't want to be out there, if I can help it, ripping apart the earth to just create more erosion. Let's spread more moisture retaining stuff on the landscape, and just, because rather than one little moment here, to spread it around and hold this moisture again, and maybe more roots will catch a hold of it.
That's it.
Yeah. That was pretty much what I had today. Oh, look at the bear was over here too. So I haven't made it this far today. So check this out. This is cool. This just happened last night. And I love it when bears are being bears. Another one. Okay, so it's active here. Gratefully, this bear didn't come towards my house, which is fantastic. I love seeing them out in the woods doing their...
Awesome spacing from the bear to your house.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing their bear things, right? They're not after my chicken food. They're not after my garbage, which is all fairly protected. But yeah, I mean, this, you can see the indent. This a couple days ago was standing up.
You can see it on the bottom.
Yeah, this was standing up. Yeah, you can see all this.
Yeah.
So, you know, really kind of amazing to think. Yeah.
And you don't think that this one is older?
This is older.
Because
yeah, this is older. Yeah, looking at that, I'm like, oh, that's been on the ground for a
Yeah.
moment. But not that much older, right?
Yeah.
It's, you know, enough for this. I mean, it's a great environment underneath there for this stuff to grow. This is not older.
Yeah.
This is not older.
Yeah.
I know that because I was here yesterday
That stump was up.
and this stump was up and this one wasn't ripped up. Now, last winter, that standing stump got ripped up. Oh, and look over there.
Yeah.
You know? So really recognizing like, oh, this is an active bear area. Okay, cool. So I see this and I'm going to be attentive, right? 90% of the times, I really don't want to throw an average out there. Most of the time, a bear will run away from you, right? Especially traveling with a dog, he'll let me know a lot of what's going on around. And that's the thing, if you are working with animals around you, pay attention to them because they got way better senses than we do. Okay, cool. I'm kind of intrigued. I kind of want to follow and see where bears are coming from, you know? If we can keep them out here, perfect. That's really what I want. You know, we're about 150 yards away from the nearest house and there's dense forest around. So, you know, what are they eating? You know, another thing I'm going to say is when I do build these shelters, I'm going to utilize some of these bark pieces.
It's burning calories for you if you utilize it.
Yeah, this is going to be a shingle,
Yep.
right? It's going to be a shingle for one of the you know, more bushcrafty structures I'm going to build.
Yeah.
You know, really, how can I work in support with this bear?
Even right here, how he ripped that.
That's what made me
log
think
up
of it
for
when I
you.
saw that. Yeah. All of a sudden, there's a nice shingle right there, or a ridge cap of some sort, right? You know, it's one of the things when this young man did the debris hut over here.
Yep.
I would have probably done more shingling. You know, I probably would have put a little bit more effort into, because I know there's a bunch of bark around here. I probably would have shingled that. I would have made it a lot thicker and shingled it. But you know, as we learn and grow, yeah, pretty cool to see this activity here. Now, I don't have a lot of time today to go traipsing after bear sign, but it's pretty cool to see how active it is and keep me aware, because I'm often out at night, you know, and when there's active bear activity, I'm going to be a little bit more attentive.
Pretty cool to see all this Oregon grape all over here.
Yeah, it's one of the blessings we have here, you know, and really to make use of it would be just the same as me making use of the firewood from here. It's really just a gift of the land, and if I'm conscious in my harvesting of it and perpetuating the stands, it's an infinite resource, you know.
As is this whole system, if you do it in that way.
That's the idea, you know. It's one of the reasons I don't do the thinning grants, is because I'm really looking at, as a homesteader, the reality of having a woodlot is crucial, right? To be able to provide building materials, firewood for us, for, you know, I use firewood for so many different source applications. To be able to do it with a length of time in mind, realizing that every cut I make is going to open up a canopy for a tree to get bigger, and realize that into the future. So this is where I start getting a consciousness of what my actions today, the implications they have towards the future. And I think if any of us, I'm going to always ask myself this, but if I can invite all of us to say, like, what kind of ramifications are my actions going to have into the future? Are they going to be positive or negative? How do I discern what's positive and negative? I think the short-sightedness of what's happened on the West Coast in the last couple hundred years has been just an extractive mentality with no concern towards the future. But as I work this woodlot, it's always about like, oh, how can I make sure I have wood next year? I have children. I hope that they're going to be able to come to the same forest and be able to harvest, firewood and materials from the same forest. As the trees get bigger, we'll have to take less of them. And so ideally we'll replicate the old stands, which is one of the cool things to see. This land got logged about maybe 60, 70 years ago. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the old stumps in that tree that we just, pulled the roots from was a remnant of that. But we can see the spacing of the trees in the forest of old, right? And they're really about 20 to 50 feet apart, sometimes more. So when I look at this, right, this has already been worked twice by me, okay, and we're still thick. So my consciousness is to cut, let the canopy fill in, cut again, let the canopy fill in, because we don't want to dry the earth out too quickly, right? The more sunlight that hits the ground, the more moisture gets pulled out of it. So how we do it in longevity will actually show how long we're preparing for. But ideally, by the story of these stumps, historically, these big trees had a lot of room around them.
1,
2,
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In this zone, and there's 8 right there.
Right, in this 15-foot area, right? So, eventually, we'd like to get back to that. But until that point, we're going to keep nurturing tree species and continuing to actively participate in our woodlot, which when I was a young man, all the books that I read about homesteading, how to find a piece of land was how to have some arable land for farming, some land for livestock raising if you're interested, and then a woodlot to be able to provide the structural and fuel sources for us. So really, I've been so blessed to have that on this piece of land, and my hope and desire and prayer is that I can nurture it well enough so it'll be into perpetuity. It's amazing to hear the different songs as it starts getting this warmer weather. To really pay attention to, at one point last year we spoke of signs of nature that foretell different changes in the cycles of life. And the songs of the birds is something that I really pay attention to.
It shifted this week.
This week was huge.
Yeah,
it was huge. I woke up, came out early one morning, and the songs of spring were in the air. And we're just past Candlemas, Imbolc, however one wants to look at the full moon in February. Different people have called it different things, right? And I'm not going to get after that. It's just the full moon in February, right? And that representation of that middle time between the solstice and the equinox. And that doesn't mean we don't have winter left. And that's one of the things that I really caution people to do, is not let your guard down or get too ahead of myself into spring projects. We're still doing what we're doing. We've got another solid month before we could really start thinking. I mean, the crocuses are up, the frogs are starting to sing, the geese are paired up and looking for nest sites. The chickadees are making different kind of songs. They're starting to push a little bit for their territory. These are all signs of a coming of another cycle. And most beautiful thing in my world is we've talked about this before, but is that participation in these cycles of life that have happened since the beginning of time. And what the singing of the frogs foretells is, lambing time around here, right? Lambs are born. And I can't tell you how deeply in my being it resonates to hear the squeals of the lambs next door to the singing of the frogs to the sight of a flower of the crocus popping, and this recognition is like, oh yeah, springtime again, or almost, right? We're moving towards that. I am not calling in springtime at all myself. I'm really happy to continue with my winter projects right now, and so I'm okay with it. Like stay cold, stay wet. Let's really get some more moisture in the ground and on the mountains, and we're still working on doing our forest management. So we're really looking forward to a couple more months of cold weather. Yeah, interestingly enough, as we're standing here, I just want to show, like, this is our property boundary, but you can see what the land used to look like, right? All this land was cut about the same time, and that's what it grew back up in. And so when people talk about clear cuts being fire mitigation, I just don't buy it, because unless you actively get in there and work the land afterwards, it's going to look like that. And if a wildfire were to come through that, it's got fuel beyond belief, and it's going to get up into the crowns and move through the canopy.
That's a canopy fire. This is a creeper.
This is a creeper, and that's the idea, right? And if I was a little bit more heavy-handed, I'd probably come in and really hit this boundary harder and thin it out even more. Now, this little stand here I've left a little bit because right behind me is this white fir. And we have lost a lot of white firs in the last decade. I don't believe they can handle the climatic changes that are happening, especially like a winter like this, which might make a really hot, dry summer. One never knows, but that's what historically it's shown. So I've left little groupings like this to see if we can keep these white firs alive, because we have one here, one there. I've already cut a few standing deads out of here.
But if a fire was coming from that direction, it wouldn't be that hard if you had a couple days and you knew it was coming from that way. You'd just hammer a bunch of trees
I would,
out of you.
absolutely. And that's where I try to get to, is that place of like, it's pretty good. And if I have to, and I have the forewarning, then I'm out there and I'm making it better and just dropping it and creating this. And so my idea is that if I could slow a spread of a fire, then I have that trail and road that we were just on, that is a defensible space. And really a consciousness that I'm having is to try to keep that defensible space vertical also. So it's not branches leaning into one another, that there is space between the branches.
Easy to take the tree if you need to.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And so that's the idea of, like, as we're building our relationship with it, we always have to include the fire into the landscape. I've been doing a lot of fires, and I think we've spoken of it in the past, but I intentionally bring fire to life in different parts of the property. It's a cleansing, and I utilize it as such. I'll pick up some of the forest debris and we'll burn it. And my hope is that the relationship that fire has with this landscape will be satiated in that form and fashion, that the fire won't want to come here or won't feel the need to come here, because it's already been here. The spirit is already intertwined with the land here. I'm just doing it with a little bit more awareness and consciousness, so that, and if it doesn't work, that's what it is, but that's my intention. And so I believe if I move with intention, relate to these spirits, to these entities with awareness like that, then I can actually be a conduit for the connection of this land with the fire. And then maybe the fire doesn't need to come visit it again in such a big form. And
You're
then
inviting it to your wedding so it doesn't have to come crashing.
you got it,
Yeah.
and that's a great analogy. And so I do that all over the land. And it's been beautiful, and I express myself to it as such. I share it like, look, I hope this is satiating your need to be here. And I'm gonna move you around more places. And it's one of the reasons I do cuts here and cuts there and cuts there and clearings over here is so I can actually move that fire around and make that relationship. And so, it's so deep, and I'm only scratching the surface, and that's the beauty of it. And the more I learn and the more I can share with others, the the prayers are going to take it a lot further and deepen the relationship to a point where I believe we are meant to be, and give us some sense of belonging and some sense of that we have a direct impact with it, and we're supposed to be here doing this. And providing, places for these bears to come get. I mean, if I hadn't cut that tree down, that bear wouldn't have been able to dig that log up and find some food, hopefully. So, maybe it's not my best interest to bait bears, but, looking through here, there's some dead branches, dead trees and such, but it's pretty thick in there. And I could see why they're coming out here to really forage. And we're going to ask them to stay over this way. Yeah, cool. That's about all I got today.